All right, good morning. Oh, thank you for saying good morning back. Good morning. No, this is not the UP's good morning. Let me try one more time. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, here we go. Now you give me really the energy to start this new academic year with all of you. Thank you all so much for being here and for making this yet another great cohort of University for Peace. My name is Amr Abdallah, and I will be your instructor for the foundation course. And this is the 21st time that I do this. So you are actually the group that I celebrate with that my 21st year with UPeace. It's been a great journey for me to be at UPeace and to meet wonderful people from all over the world every single year. Sometimes it's like this introductory lecture or session is, I have to say, one of the moments in my life that I look forward to every single year. And it's because it gives me, among many other things, it gives me opportunity to share things that I think are so profound about my journey with UPeace, which I know very well is going to inspire, I think, many of you. And to say the least, just to start it off, as I mentioned, I've been doing this for 21 years. And everywhere I go in the world, no matter what country it is, no matter where it is, I have UPeace graduates in that country. And many of them are really in top positions in many places. Comes to my mind, for example, is someone who, when I taught here in 2003, 2004, his name was Hovik. He was from Armenia and Lebanon. At that time, he was 21 years old, doing a master's degree in the gender program. 21-year-old kid, if you allow me. Hovik has been working in UNHCR for the last 15 years or more. Now he's about 42 years old, and he is a big shot at UNHCR. I can no longer joke with him like I used to joke with him when he was a little kid. He is now such a big, important person. And there are so many like him. So I am looking forward, hopefully, if I'm around after 20 years, to see all of you in amazing places, thanks to the experience that you are starting here at the University for Peace. Before I go any farther, I always have to clarify something. Can you understand me okay? Is my accent clear? All right, I like that. Yeah, good. Needless to say, especially at a place like UPeace, you will learn the hard way that there is not one correct accent. All of us have different accents, even if English is our first language. Actually, that makes it more challenging to people whose English is not the first language, because we tend, if English is our first language, to speak in our normal speed, which may sound too fast to many people. We may say things with, especially in the US, with certain accent or dialect that we think this is the normal, but for many people, they don't really know how to catch what we say. And that's why I don't take it for granted that because I think I speak good English, that everyone can understand me. I try to slow down. I try to make sure that I say things in the most clear way that for most people. Even then, sometimes when I listen sometimes to myself, say on a voice message, I sometimes don't understand what I said. So imagine for other people. So if I say something and it's not clear, please do not hesitate to say, what was that? Repeat it again. I did not understand. I don't have any problem to repeat, and I urge you to do the same. Do not take it for granted that everyone can understand easily your accent. So now that I passed the test of accent, and you say, you confirm it, yes, we can understand you, I would like to start, and of course in this class, the foundation course, I am assisted by one of my very dear graduates of UPeace, Miss Alexa Silva. So Alexa, I would like to say something about yourself.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm gonna just turn on the yeah. Now you're assisting. Thank you so much. Yeah, my name is Alexa. I'm from Costa Rica, exactly from Ciudad Colón. So in case you need something, even part of the course or not part of the course, let me know and I'll be happy to help you. I started my university here in 2022 and finished in 2023. After that, I went for around 10 months to India. I basically started doing my internship over there, and then I stayed working for a bit more. And I just came back a couple months ago, and I'm so happy to meet you all. I'm so happy to see new faces, to learn from you, and yeah, basically to have new experiences over here. If I can give you one advice, is to enjoy fully, because it's very short. So yeah, this year it's really short.
Very good. Thank you so much, Alexa. And so what I would like to do in this session is first I will just say a few things about UPeace itself, about my own journey that got me in the field of peace and conflict, and then to UPeace. And then after this we'll talk about the syllabus, and we'll get into, to start off on the topic itself of foundation of peace and conflict. Typically our first lecture starts at 8:45 and we finish at 10. We take a break until 10:15, and then you have seminars. I understand that all of you are in 2 seminars, and people who are joining on Zoom, hello people at Zoom, you will be joining me in the Zoom session for the seminar. So UP, and that goes until 11, from 10:15 to 11:45. So UPeace, the one thing I always say everywhere in the world about UPeace is there is no place in the world like UPeace. And I have been to so many places actually. And I can confirm, no, there is not a place like UPeace in a very positive sense. This place is a place of change and transformation. People come here with their own expectations, their own baggage, their own story, and they come here and they find themselves surrounded by an amazingly beautiful place, 5-star place by all standards, and the beauty of the place, the beauty of the country and the people, I think is a big factor in the success of University for Peace. On top of it, you come to this very unique place that is, and as you're going to see through the years that Alexa said is going to be very short, so make the best out of it. It has some interesting elements that you will start to realize how important they are for you. For example, you start off, all of you probably living either in El Rodeo, not as many, but the majority are in Ciudad Colón. Am I correct? That's pretty much the pattern. And how do you get here to University for Peace is there is a bus. And there is a bus schedule that is very well structured. And I have to admit that it has been working very efficiently all those years. So the bus is pretty much the only way that can bring you here to UPeace. You sit at the bus, and you sit with people that you probably never met before, especially in the first few days. Over time, they become your best friends. And that journey in the bus is very significant in the bonding and in getting to know each other and to start to reflect on what's happening and your life and so on. So a lot of connection develops just by coming on that bus together. And then all of you arrive here at the same time. All of you, and whether the foundation course or when you go to your respective master's degrees, you're going to find yourself all following the same structure. You're going to the classes at 8:45, you're doing one class at a time, and then you finish at around noon. You're having lunch in the cafeteria or whatever it is, and then at night, and I would say UPeace life in the evening is more exciting than UPeace life during the day. And why? Because again, the smallness of the place, the smallness of Ciudad Colón and El Rodeo makes it, and all of you live very close to each other. Before you know it, you will realize that everyone lives within 5-10 minutes walk from where you are. So people hang out a lot together, a lot of parties. Yeah, you will see. and also, again, a lot of bonding happens, a lot of connection, a lot of sharing about the knowledge that you learn, and this is where that academic model of UPeace becomes yet another unique element. When I say there is no place in the world like UPeace, because among many things, there are many places that teach peace and conflict worldwide, everywhere, pretty much. However, this model of teaching peace from different angles, from the angle of gender, the angle of human rights, the angle of media, the angle of peace education, environment, of course, and so on, is you don't see this anywhere else, with a lot of focus and specialization. As a result, you are in the environment program or natural resources, and then you're talking to someone from gender or human rights or peace education, and you realize that, wow, there are so many elements that are connecting together to give us a good, deeper, broader understanding of peace and conflict. And as you're going through it, and that's one of also my big objectives in this first foundation course, we try not to make this simply an intellectual experience, that we are just giving you frameworks and tools to know how to think of peace and conflict, especially when it happens at world stage. No, as a matter of fact, our biggest interest is to touch you at a very personal level. We want both of this to happen. We want you to have this good understanding and good frameworks to understand peace, conflict, and analyze anything happening in the world. But we also want you to understand yourself better and to understand that conflict as you deal with it is as important as conflict that you read about in the news or watch on TV. And it is this kind of transformation on a personal level that I believe happens thanks to this structure of UPeace, the connection to people from different backgrounds, the setup of UPeace with multiple areas of knowledge and sharing. I think all of this will come together to make you appreciate what a place I am in. And I am sure that as I see you growing into UPeace and beyond, I will remind you of this first lecture and where you will be in your life. And I wish you all the very, very best. About me and how I came to UPeace. I come from Egypt originally. And anyone from Egypt this year? No, not this year. Okay. And I was actually, I finished law school in Egypt. And I practiced law as a prosecutor from 1979 until 1986. Yes, I am that old. I am. And the practice of law was really very defining for me. I became a big boss. Big boss. Good to see you. So I joined the prosecution office in Egypt. And in the first 3 years, I worked in one of the districts of Cairo. But then in September '81, as a prosecutor or judge, they typically, they will transfer you from place to place every 2-3 years. You don't just sit put in one place. So after 3 years in one of the districts, they moved me to the Office of National Security. National Security dealt with espionage, terrorism, crimes that threatened the government or the state. So I joined September '81. 1 month after, October '81, something very significant happened in Egypt. Anyone can guess or remember something happened October '81 in Egypt, a major issue happened that related to my work in national security. Okay, I'll tell you. The president of the country, President Anwar Sadat, was assassinated. And there was an attempt to overthrow the entire government and to establish a religious Islamic model, like what happened in Iran 2 years before, in 1978-79. So there was a coup. They killed the president of the country, and they tried to overthrow the government and declare the Islamic State of Egypt. But the government quickly responded, and we were able to arrest many of them. And here I was, a young prosecutor, 25-year-old at that time. I find myself in the middle of the most significant event that maybe happened in the world at that time. Anwar Sadat was very significant. He had fought the war with Israel in '73, and then he established peace with Israel in 1977. He won the Nobel Peace Prize along with the Prime Minister of Israel because of establishing peace together. So he was very significant, at least to the Western world. So to see him being assassinated and killed by, yet again, a group of fundamentalists and religious zealots, it was very scary. And a country like Egypt, of course, has a strong weight in the Middle East. So here I am, young prosecutor. I find myself working directly with terrorists, people who killed the president, people who participated in this. And this work was very transformative to me on a personal level and professional level. Among many things, why it was significant, it's because working with those people who participated in the killing of the president and wanted to change things using force, obviously for me as a prosecutor, is a crime. And I was investigating it, myself and my colleagues, to try to figure out who participated, who brought the guns, who brought the bombs, who shot, who killed, all that stuff. However, as you would talk to those people, the surprise was that many of them were convinced that they were the good ones, that they were the good people, and that we, the prosecutors, the judges, the police, of course, and everyone else, are the bad ones. We are the corrupt regime. We are the ones who are not following Islam properly. We are we are the ones who are abusing our power. And so they are entitled to use force against us in order to establish the word of God. And if they die, even better, because they consider themselves to be martyrs and they will go to heaven. So they don't care to die because they believe in their cause. The more I spoke to those people about their logic and how they thought they were the good people, got me to realize that there were so many dimensions to the phenomena of terrorism and many other phenomena in the world when it comes to conflict that you cannot deal with simply using legal and judicial methods. Yes, you have to. You have to have a court system, you have to have law, you have to have judges. But when you only look at things from that angle, you miss many other dimensions. And what proved to me that this was a big problem is, say that with those who killed Anwar Sadat and tried to overthrow the government, we were able to round most of them. And we investigated the case. And we put many of them in jail. And many of them were found guilty and spent a long time in prison. But then within a year, there was a new wave of younger ones who were as violent, even more violent, that popped up from nowhere. We did not have them on our radar. And they were as violent. And 2 years later, another group, and another group, until today. When you hear today about ISIS, you heard about ISIS, of course, and you hear about Al-Qaeda, those are the offsprings of the jihad groups that we worked with in 1981. The 81 people are the grandfathers of the groups that we are familiar with today. The phenomena has not stopped, and it keeps growing in different ways. And so that made me realize that there are many factors, psychological, cultural, historical, religious, you name it, that are in the heart of what we are doing. And by only looking at the security perspective and the legal perspective, we are missing a lot of this. So I am doing my work, and I'm getting very interested in those non-legal dimensions. And one day, I am sitting in my office when two of my colleagues came to me and said, hey, we're going to American University in Cairo to take a test of English. If we do well, we may qualify for a one-year scholarship in the US. Would you like to come with us? It was just like that. And it happened that my English was so good. Not because I went to English schools or international schools. No, I went to regular government schools in Egypt. But my English became very good since I was a teenager, because when I was that young, I was obsessed, literally obsessed, with listening to American songs and to try to understand what they say. At that time, we had no internet, no YouTube, none of that. We only had a radio and a program that comes maybe 2-3 times a week that had American songs on it. And I don't know what that obsession where it came from. I know that the reason I was doing that, I wanted to look cool. I mean, to be honest. That really was the motivation. I wanted to be cool and to be around my peers and others and so on and say, yeah, I know songs and I know this word and stuff like that. But somehow that made my English very, very strong since I was a teenager, to the point that I hardly had to study for English in my classes, yet I had the highest grades. And I would just to go tutor my friends before exams. And that was my way of studying, to know what's in the curriculum. So my English was really good. So when those guys came to me and said, would you go with us to take a test of English, I got a very high score. And as a result, I found myself taking time off from work to prepare for a scholarship. And then I applied for that scholarship in the US, which is something very exciting to many people in the global South. When you are young, 20-something, you want to go to Europe, you want to go to US, at least at my time. So within 4 or 5 months, I found myself on an airplane going to the United States for 1 year, while keeping my job as a prosecutor in Egypt. Of all universities in the United States, I go to a university outside of Washington, D.C., called George Mason University. Anyone from the Washington, D.C. area? All right. You know George Mason? All right. So I go to George Mason in 1983, 84. And I spend 1 year there. Interestingly, when I was at George Mason, talking about, again, those coincidences that happen in your life that you have no control over, and I am sure all of you already have your share of such coincidences, and everyone's life is made of such a series of coincidences. Some of them are like you can say, oh, I did the right thing to be where this coincidence happened, but sometimes they happen out of nowhere. I go to George Mason University, and we went to the sociology department, not the legal department, because we were people from Egypt from different disciplines. Anyway, I see that they have brochures all over campus about a new master's degree program that they started at George Mason just a year before, and it was called like Conflict Management and Resolution. And as I read, what is this program? I thought it would be a legal program. And then I found, no, it's not a legal program. It's actually, they say that we are looking at conflict from all different angles. We want to look at it from the cultural perspective, the sociological perspective, the economic, the political, all those different factors that I myself, as a prosecutor dealing with the terrorists, was getting to realize that something I need to understand deeper that I am not getting by focusing on law. So here, I find myself in the one university that just started the first program at a master's level in the world at that time, in that field that seemed to fit with where I was professionally and personally. I was seeking the answers to those non-legal elements in conflict, and here I find a program that tells me that we will focus on all those, cultural, psychological, sociological, political, blah, blah, blah. I remember when I saw that brochure, I decided that's it. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I finished my 1 year at George Mason, went back to my country according to the regulations of that scholarship. I had to go back for 2 years. So I did, went back to Egypt, continued to be a prosecutor for a couple of more years. And then I came back to the US in the beginning of '87. And I have been there in the US since then, as a resident and then citizen. I finished my master's degree at George Mason in sociology and conflict studies. And then I finished my PhD in conflict analysis and resolution. And that started off on a whole new career. I built my life from zero in America, like the typical American story, working hard, going to school, raising kids, the whole thing. And as I moved forward in my education in peace and conflict, I started to develop my academic career. I started as a part-time research assistant in one project that became a full-time job. And then from that, I started to teach, and that became also a full-time teaching job. And then again, another coincidence, I'm sitting one time also minding my own business when I get a call from somebody about there is a place in Costa Rica called University for Peace, and they are starting a program on gender, and they want you to come and participate in the design of that curriculum for gender program, gender and peace building. I really had never heard of UPeace at that time. That was 2003. And I came here not knowing what to expect. I came to this place, this room, And I worked with a group of professors designing the curriculum for the Gender and Peace Studies program. We developed, and I came a couple of times with the gender program. And then other programs noticed me, so they asked me to teach in the international peace studies and also rights. So I kept coming back in 2003 to teach as a visiting professor. And one time the rector, the president of the university, was here, and he noticed me and he spoke to me a little bit. And I remember he was from Scotland, he was a great man. And after 10 minutes just chatting and joking, he said, listen, we are growing now, and we need a dean. And you seem to be the right one. Just like that, after 10 minutes of talk. He said, would you join us? I said, let me ask my wife. So I asked my wife, would you go to Costa Rica? She said, absolutely. So we agreed to come here. We thought we'll be here for a year, 2, 3, 4. It ended up 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. I was here for 10 years, from 2003, 4 until 2013, as a professor, dean, and then vice rector or vice president of the university. After that, I left UPeace 2014, and then I went from there. And I have to say, before I move from UPeace and say what happened, it's just those 10 years in UPeace, doing this work as an administrator and as a professor, they have been the best time of my life. Driving, coming up here today, even waking up this morning, I was so excited that I feel like this is home. This has been my home for the last 21 years. Everyone knows me professionally, identify me with UPeace more than anything else, even though I have many more affiliations. But UPeace has been my strongest element of my professional and personal identity. And I continue to enjoy so much coming here and to be part of this community. So I will go on maybe more and more about UPeace as I see you over the next couple of weeks. So I finished with UPeace 2014, and then I went to, from there also again by a coincidence, I went to Ethiopia. And I was there for 2.5 years with a similar institute called the Institute for Peace and Security Studies, which we helped establish as UPeace when I was here as a vice rector. So I joined them for 2.5 years, and it was a great time working with the African Union and with that institute. One of the highlights of my work in Ethiopia was that I taught at the PhD level and master's degree. One of the students at my PhD program was, at that time he was a member of the parliament. And then he asked me after teaching him one class that to be his advisor for his PhD dissertation. So I was his PhD advisor, and he became a minister at that time. And by the time he finished his PhD, he finished fairly quickly in 3 years. And I remember I signed off on his PhD, and then maybe 3, 4 months later, there was many changes happening in the country politically, and he rose to become the prime minister of the country. And he is still the prime minister of Ethiopia. His name is Abiy Ahmed. And he was my student, and I was his advisor. And he won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2019. So as I look at you, I wonder who will be next to win the Nobel Peace Prize or be the prime minister. You never know. And then I finished with Ethiopia, went back to the US, and I've been working now for the last 3.5 years with a small liberal arts college in Pennsylvania called, anyone from Pennsylvania? Here we go, from where in Pennsylvania?
I'm originally from like Philadelphia area, but I went to a small liberal arts school in Allentown.
In Allentown, okay, very good. And another Pennsylvania back here? From where? Okay, so I am now working in a small college called Juniata College. Have you heard of it? You know it? Juniata College in Huntington, in the middle of Pennsylvania. Lovely experience. I have to say I'm just enjoying this experience so much. And actually I start to teach there today also, but I am coordinating, so I'm going to teach on Zoom after I finish my session with you. We do this for the first 2 weeks because we start at the same time. And then I go back to teach for the rest of the semester. So right now, I am keeping up between UPeace and Juniata College. UPeace is definitely I am not here full-time anymore. I just come for the foundation course. And then I teach online 2 or 3 classes through the year. And of course, I have long a connection with the administration on many things, and I collaborate with them. They endorse my workshops I do in the world, and they give UP certificates, and so they get paid for that, of course, but that's fine. And so UPeace, again, is my biggest part of identity, and it's an honor to keep coming back every year. So this is pretty much my story. And the part of what I have done with my work, and actually that goes back to, again, childhood stuff. When I was a child, if you ask me what did I want to do when I grew up, I would say I wanted to be a pilot. And the reason I wanted to be a pilot, because I wanted to see the world. Well, thanks to the work of peace and conflict, and especially UPeace, I have seen the world, even without becoming a pilot. I have traveled to more than 70 countries, 7-0, doing different types of work, teaching, research, training, evaluation in areas related to peace and conflict. A lot of the stories that I have gone through and have seen and witnessed worldwide, I will bring into this class and other classes. So you will hear a lot of, to get ready, you're going to hear a lot of stories related to peace and conflict from different parts of the world. This is pretty much my story, how I landed here, and how proud I am of being at UPeace, and proud to see, I'll call you the 21st cohort. Oh, by the way, I have a tradition that I started several years ago, which is when I start a new foundation course, I kind of observe people, observe the group. And then by the last class, the very last session of the foundation course, I will do it on Zoom from Pennsylvania. And I usually declare a name for the cohort. So like one time there was a cohort, his name, the Smiling Peace. They were like really full of smiles from day one. And they loved that name. Actually, they are so proud of that Smiling Peace. One time I called them the class of the heroes, because actually they went to the beach and one person was swimming and was going to drown. Luckily, one of the UPeace girls, she was actually trained for life-saving, and she went and saved that person, saved their life. So, so I call them the class of heroes, and so on. So get ready. On the last day, I will announce the name for your group. Okay, any questions, any comments for me before I get into our topic? Okay, and then I have some rituals that I do in my work. For example, as you saw when I arrived, I refused to start before I hear good morning back, right? So this is ritual 1. Ritual 2, when I ask a general question, open question, like any questions, any comments, and then I wait for people. How long will I wait? I mean, so I typically wait for a second or two. If anybody raises their hand, of course, great. If no one, then I will count to 3. And if I count to 3 and still no question, then forever hold your peace, and we will move to something else. So let's try one more time. Any comments, any questions on what I said so far? 1. Oh, here's one, you see? And maybe just so I get to know you a little bit, if you don't mind, you tell me your name and maybe where you're from, so that I start to get to know you. And my challenge is always to figure out how to, here we go. All right. I'll get there.
Thank you. My name is Haiti.
Haiti?
And I am from Lynn, Massachusetts. I am in the dual master's program at American University.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have a question, because I have understood that the foundations course is split into 2 sections.
Yes.
Are you the other professor with Mary Little?
Okay. No. I'll get to that. I'll explain that when I speak about the structure right now.
So it's okay. You can answer it later.
Yeah, I will, because it's coming in what
Okay.
I will talk about now.
Okay,
Can I
thank
take the
you.
microphone
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
Or do you have something else to say?
No, that's it.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you, Haiti. Thank you. Any other questions? 1, 2, 3. Okay. So let's start with the design of the class. So as we said, that the class is made of 2 sections. A lecture, like this one, from 8:45 until 10, 15-minute break, and then you go to seminars. The lectures, the first week, you are stuck with me. And then the second week and the third week, there will be other professors who will give the lectures also, because as we mentioned, UPeace is unique by offering different angles and perspectives on peace and conflict. While I gave you the general foundation of how to think peace and conflict, which I think after the first week you will realize, yeah, this is unique, different from coming from sociology background. Actually, that would be an interesting thing to do, to see where people's background from. Can you tell me your academic background? What did you do? What did you study? And your name also.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Emily. I'm from Chicago. I'm in the Environment Development and Peace program.
And what did you study in your
Undergrad, environmental biology, and then political science.
Okay.
And then I have a master's in conflict resolution and mediation.
Oh, really? From where?
Tel Aviv University.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. And Emily.
Emily, yes.
Welcome, Emily. Okay. So environment and then conflict resolution, right? And biology, you said.
Yes.
Okay, great.
My name's Leah. My undergraduate degree is in environmental studies.
Okay.
I'm Ananya. I'm from India. My background is history, particularly Indian history.
History, particularly?
Indian history.
Indian history.
Yeah.
Excellent. From where in India?
In Madhya Pradesh. It's literally called the Central Province.
Okay, very good. I ask because actually my wife is from nearby, from Bangladesh.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm familiar with the Indian culture, you know, it's, the whole area. Yeah, very good.
Hi, my name is Natsu Yamashita. I'm studying Japan. I'm from Japan. I'm studying social science.
And your background is social science?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. I mean, I just wanted to show you something here. Like you have biology and environment, and you have history, and you have social science and environment as well. And if I go around the room, you're going to find that there are all those different backgrounds. So other professors come and bring different angles. You're going to have somebody coming to speak from the environment perspective, somebody coming to speak about gender, about human rights, and so on. So this is how the 3 weeks of lectures will go. And then I will come back on in the very last session to wrap it up with the final lecture. After you finish the lecture in the morning, you will go to your seminars. There are 3 seminars this year. One is conducted by one of our professors, Mary Little. I don't see her around, but I'm sure she's somewhere watching, maybe on Zoom. And with us is Professor Tiamike. Tiamike, you want to welcome people? All right, so Professor Tiamike, and I am sure he will speak about that in his own seminar. And then the third seminar is with people who are on Zoom. And I will do that Zoom session with the people who are not on campus yet. This has been a pattern at UPeace for many years, which is many students cannot make it on time because of visa issues and many other factors. So we got used to this and we try to adjust. So many of them will be on Zoom, but as you go through the years, they will start to come to UPeace and you'll meet them in person. So this is how, so Heidi, did I answer that one? Yes. Okay, you got, so Tiamike is the second one, Mary Little is one, and they are the ones who are managing people who are on campus, and I am managing the ones who are on Zoom. In the seminar, we kind of reflect on what was discussed in the lecture and give you more space to engage and to do something beyond just listening to a lecture. You have exercises, activities, bringing your own expertise. So it's a different way of method of learning that is so critical, as I'm going to explain in a minute, for teaching in terms of peace and conflict. In terms of your assignments for the 3 weeks, and I have it on my phone, so I'm not checking my messages. I promise. Reading the assignment, so I make sure I get it right. You have to participate, of course, in the lectures and in the seminars. And when we say participate, we really hope that you are engaging in your own way. I am careful here to say engaging in your own way, because I know that it's not easy for some people to speak. If we say participate means we want you to keep talking in the class and sharing and so on, some people just are not comfortable sharing and speaking in front of other people. I remember there was a research actually that when they asked people about what is the one thing they dread, they fear the most, it was not death, it was public speaking. Public speaking was the biggest fear for so many people. And culturally, some people are not used to speak in class. I being one, by the way. I mean, we grew up in educational settings in Egypt and many other people in the global south, you know what I'm talking about. The good student in the class had to sit like this. No, I'll show you. A good student sits with their hand like that. This is a good student. And you typically just listen to your teacher, and and you just have to listen very well to them. And you speak only if you are asked to say something. But for us to kind of share and speak, no. I remember the shock, and now maybe our American fellows here will know what I'm talking about. Imagine my shock going to American universities to study at the graduate school level, and to see how American students are so used to open up and speak in class. I was shocked for many years. I was so nervous. But I learned where it came from, actually, thanks to my son. My son, when he was in kindergarten in Virginia, where we lived at that time, I remember one time when he was in kindergarten, I bought him a toy for Christmas or whatever it was a few days before. And then when he was going to school, and he said, "Dad, I'm going to take that toy to school." I said, "No, you don't take toys to school." He said, "Dad, I need to take it to school." I said, "No." He said, "Dad, I have show and tell." And I did not understand what show and tell was, being a new foreign person in that country. I thought he was saying, "I'm going to show off." I mean, I kind of understood totally wrong that he wants to show his friends, like, I have this toy. So the more he insisted, the more I was becoming stubborn with him. And he started to get so upset with me. And I said, "Fine, then I'll go with you tomorrow and talk to your teacher to see what's going on with this. I don't believe that kids take toys to school, period." So I go next day with him to school, and I said to his teacher, of course, with all my confidence, "I cannot believe Joseph wants to bring a toy." And I told him, "No." She said, "Mr. Abdallah, he has a show and tell." I said, "You too?" No. She said, "Yeah, we have something called show and tell. Young kids, we get them to bring something they like from their own home, and they explain it to other kids and explain why they like it. And then they get questions from other kids and they answer them. This is how we teach them how to engage and how to speak." I said, "Oh boy, this explains a lot. Explains why I see my American classmates in my graduate school are so comfortable talking, and I am shiver. Like, I find myself like, oh my God, I cannot speak. I don't know what to say." It was just quite an experience and the transformation for me to get out of that mode, to be like where I think you can see now. I'm standing very comfortably and I know how to speak in front of people. But that was not the case 30 years ago, not at all. So as I look at people, I can feel you. If somebody feel, "Oh my God, I am not the person who's going to speak in class all the time." I said engage. Engage in your own way. Sometimes it is, and actually I notice more actually how much people are focused and connected. And that is something deeper. You don't feel it by how often do they speak. It is something else. I don't know what it is, and I'll come to that in a minute actually. But it is something more about people are connected. Some people also don't know how to speak very well, but they know how to write. And there are now new modes of how to communicate. Some people can maybe make a video clip and express themselves. There are so many ways we can do this. All I am asking is be present, no matter what that means. But no one is asking you to get out of your comfort zone and speak when you really feel like I'm not comfortable talking. But participation is important, being present and physically being in class, please. And for that, you have 30% of the grade. And then we have also 2 presentations that you will do actually. You have a theory presentation. We have some theories that relate to peace and conflict, and that will start fairly quickly. So actually tomorrow we'll put you in groups in your seminars, and you will form groups around different theories, and every group will study the theory, and then next week you need to present that theory to the rest of your class. So this will be one of your big main assignments. And you have 10% of the grade for that, I think. Yep. And then you have another group work where you're going to do a conflict analysis after you learn some of the tools, and you will do a conflict analysis with a group and present it to your seminar, and there is 15% of the grade for that. So far we have 10, 30, and 15, so that is 55. And then 45% are 15 each for a weekly reflection. Every week you are exposed to a lot of things. and you are reading stuff, and you are listening to presentations and engaging in the seminar, we want you to write a reflection paper. And for that, you will you receive 15% of your grade. So this is what is expected of you for this foundation course. Any question? Yes, one. Yeah, go ahead. And again.
Thank you. My question was for the... Oh, my name. Yes, sorry. My name is Sophia. I use she, her pronouns. I'm from Austria, but I have Iranian background. My question was, for the group assignments, are these grades group-based or are they individual?
Group-based.
Okay.
In very exceptional cases, that's a very good question. Is a grade for the group activity for all the entire, everyone in the group gets the same grade or individual? Usually we give the grade for everyone the same. But every now and then there is a reason why we have to give somebody higher or lower. Very rarely. Maybe in my 21 years here, it was done once or twice. So, but typically expect that everyone will get the same grade. Okay, your name again was Sophia, I said? Sophia, welcome. Okay, other questions? 1, 2, 3. Okay, what else I want to talk about and what time is it? I still have half hour. Not bad. Okay. Zoom people, how are you, Zoom people? Do you have any questions to me on everything we spoke about before I move forward? 1, 2, 3. Oh, somebody? Okay, go ahead. Unmute yourself. Okay, so we need to change the... Okay, try to speak now. No. Okay, so I'll ask you, Tengo, can you please write your question or comment in the chat until we figure out the audio? Maybe we'll not do it today, but for now, if you can type it. No questions, sir. Okay? Okay, if any of you have any comment or question, please type it in the chat, and we will read it for you. Okay? For just to move forward for now. All right. Yes.
Hey, my name is Hira. Hira. I'm from Pakistan, and my background is law. And ask about the reflection week, because here I just noted yesterday about 400 words and give and take 30 words, and review and summary. It's like long process, I guess. Long process. So yeah, so I need to ask about that reflection week.
Okay, very good. The weekly reflections are every week, and we have the dates and everything in the syllabus. You are expected to reflect on the activity in the class, and about that actually that is like a page and a half. I mean, when you type it, it's about 1 page and a half. It's not a lot, and of course, proper citation, where you got in the reading was interesting. So you need to please make sure to follow the proper citations when you do this kind of work, and of course, your seminar leader will give you a guide how to write it. It should not be long, or not at all, actually. It's, in my opinion, 400 words is not that much. Actually, you may find that it is limiting. And we say give, like, don't go below 170, or don't go so crazy. Keep it within the 400. Okay? Thank you. Hera? Hera, welcome. Okay, anything else? Yes. And let me give you the other mic for this one. I don't know what's the problem there.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Mari. I'm from Brazil. I was wondering if for those assignments or any written assignment, we need to follow a structure, and if so, what structure? Yeah, in Brazil we have ABNT, but I don't know if it's international or not.
Okay, I'll have to review the syllabus carefully for this, and I advise just to talk to your facilitator in the seminar, because they will be the ones who will review your work and give you comments on it. There must be guidelines in the syllabus, but if not, about the format and everything and what style to use, if not, you will agree on that with your facilitator. Very good point. Okay, anything else? All right. I think I finished all the basic things. Now we can put the PowerPoint. And I have this PowerPoint that I will use. I got printed some of them because I know some people like to take notes. So take one and pass it around. Go. I am sure if you can take one and pass it, and I'm sure it will get to you in a second. Here we go. And we expand it. This one, yep. Okay. All right, so when we speak about teaching, so we go to the next one. Okay, before I get into talking about topics of peace and conflict, I feel that, and again, over years doing this work, I realize that there are some premises, things I take for granted, and I want to make sure that you also take it for granted as we think of peace and conflict. Number one, you all are already experts in peace and conflict. Now, let me prove it. Imagine if this university and this course was not peace. It was actually, say, the foundation of astrophysics. Astrophysics. Who knows anything about astrophysics here, other than the name? You know astrophysics? A little bit. And that doesn't surprise me. Whenever I ask this question to a group like this, I always end up with the one person who will say a little bit, which is fine. And if you ask me, I have no clue. All I know is that astrophysics relates to the space and its physics. That's about it. Now, so if I am coming here to study astrophysics, it makes sense that I will be sitting like that old good child in class, listening to an expert who studied astrophysics. They know what astrophysics is, and they will teach me what astrophysics is. So I will be on the receiving end of knowledge that somebody else has. But when it comes to conflict and peace, can anyone here tell me that they never been in a conflict in their life? Anyone? There's no way. There is no way that any of us has not been through a conflict. And here I am not talking about grand conflicts only. Yeah, maybe you have been. I mean, if you are coming, say from a country that is going through war and you participated in the war or in demonstrations or whatever, and you were part of this event, major event, then probably you were part of a grand conflict. But you also have been through conflict in your community, in your family, in your school yard, in the playground, in the workplace. We have been through all those kinds of conflicts in our life. And we all know very well how it feels to be in a conflict. We all have seen the different ways that we deal with conflict and other people around us deal with conflict. And we also sometimes succeeded in resolving conflicts, and we found a way to establish peace. And sometimes we failed. All those are very rich experiences. Going through it experiencing how it feels, succeeding in resolving, failing to resolve. All of them are rich experiences, worthy of sharing and reflecting upon. And that's why it is critical in our education of peace and conflict that I don't assume that because I have a PhD in peace and conflict, I am like somebody has a PhD in astrophysics and everyone here has no idea. Oh no. I am talking about a subject that all of you have been through. So my experience does not make me more like expert. Every experience is rich and unique and can only actually enhance and expand our understanding and appreciation of what happens in conflict. How often have we heard about somebody being through a conflict, explaining their narratives, their story, how they felt through it, and we think, oh my God, I never thought about it this way. But it added to you, it accumulated more to your understanding of what happens in peace and conflict, hopefully in a positive way that can help you to deal with conflict more effectively as you move forward. And that's why, actually, our entire education, as you're going to see in all your classes, is based on that premise. We assume that people, because we know for sure, people have been through issues of conflict and peace, they have something to share, and if we open the space for sharing, then we will have better education. So that's why I call this a premise. Because you're gonna, when you say why are we are opening the space and people are getting to speak and share, of course it has to be structured, organized in a way to make sure that the flow of information is going properly to everyone. But definitely we want to appreciate the richness of what you bring to your stories. As a matter of fact, I can give you a story, it's a little bit harsh and true from your peace experience that happened one year. We were talking in one session about, like in the foundation course, about nonviolence. And after the main lecture, we had our seminars. And I was the leader of one of the seminars. So I went to my seminar with about 20 students looking like you. And we were talking about nonviolence. Of course, you can imagine students coming to study at a university for peace, and you are having them discuss nonviolence. It's like you are preaching to the choir. I mean, they came here because they like that stuff. So as we are discussing nonviolence during the seminar, the students are sharing examples of the effectiveness of nonviolence, the importance of nonviolence, the Martin Luther King, the Gandhi, and so on and so on. And everybody's talking about, yes, and we get to do something more with nonviolence and get more people to use it as a way to deal with conflict, great stuff. And near the end of the class, there was one young woman, and she was quiet throughout, and then she raised her hand, and she said, I appreciate everything you said about nonviolence, and I definitely agree with you, but I also would like to share that when I was 14 years old, I was sexually assaulted by 2 men. In retrospect, I wished I used violence at that time to stop this from happening to me. And she started to cry. You realize how this room became so silent now? I swear to God, every time I shared that story anywhere in the world, I got that deafening silence. And I keep wondering, what is this silence when I share this powerful story? And I am sure that you can go deep and say, it's probably many people can identify that they have seen such or been, sadly, through such experiences. Some people may say that, yes, I wonder how can I reconcile my notion of nonviolence and my ideal of nonviolence with the experience of this very young woman. I cannot accept that she was not okay because she said, I wish I used violence. But how can I accept that and at the same time accept the principles and value of nonviolence? And for me, that takes us to the second one, which is, if you're coming here looking for answers for everything, believe me, you are in the wrong place. I think we want you to walk away with more questions because we really don't have answers for everything. Instead, what we want to do is to give you better tools for how to think critically and how to expand your perspective on issues. including the example I just mentioned. And to dig deeper and to appreciate that not every time I will have an answer as if it's a mathematical equation. Sometimes life is too complex to fit within an equation. And we have to struggle through this with our best intention and with our best shared knowledge and open space for everyone to participate in a peaceful way. And what is the outcome? We hope it will be better. But will I give you answer, or any of us will be able to give you answers for everything? No. So sometimes actually this might be the response I have to some questions. The question will be so complex, so valuable, that I really don't have an answer as much as I can actually just help you to think of more dimensions to it that hopefully can expand how we think of it. So this is the second premise. So you are experts, and that experience is, again, I mean, every time I think of that young woman, and she's a great friend until today, again, wonderful graduate of UPeace. And when I think of how she have enriched all of us' understanding and feeling and depth by sharing bravely something so intimate like this, imagine how it affected and continues, thanks, because I keep sharing that story everywhere. I am sure it's helping more and more people to expand their understanding of such issues. And then the third one, that no matter what we speak about peace and conflict, there is something called the AI of peace and conflict. And I'm yet to write something deeper about it. Anyone can guess what is the AI of peace and conflict? What is AI usually? Artificial intelligence. Definitely I don't mean that, right? You're sure I don't mean that, right? Actually, the more I dig in learning about peace and conflict, no matter how many frameworks and models we try to develop and to understand, and you're going to see, we're going to do that in the next 2 days. But while I want to develop your ability to systemically think of conflict and peace, and to understand things in an organized manner so that you can figure out what are the best approaches to peacefully deal with a conflict situation, but when it comes to the actual intervention, the actual peace work, it is highly artistic and highly intuitive. Artistic intuition. Artistic intuition. Yes, it is based on systemic knowledge. It is based on how I methodically collect information about a situation. But when it comes to the art of how to intervene peacefully, what will work in some situations and what will not work, I really cannot say that there is also a systemic method as much as there is creativity and there is something closer to art and trusting your intuition. So the AI is artistic intuition. And again, that is similar to not having answers to everything, because if you ask me specifically what do you mean by artistic intuition, I really don't know. I think that is part of intuition. What is intuition? Intuition is like, I feel that something has to be done in a certain way, but can you give me something more concrete about it? I really don't know. I feel it, but I cannot express how it is. But that feeling that this may work or so on, or this is the right approach that may fit, is based on, yes, well-collected methods. But it's almost like the artist who can paint and draw something very nicely. They go to school, they study art, and I'm sure they study things in a very systemic way, how to use whatever they used to draw with, and how they, if you want to draw a face, I remember sometimes seeing like how the design of how they draw face, it's actually made of very systemic lines, and then those lines that looks like chart or something, that's where you put the nose and the face and the eye and so on. Wow. I wouldn't have known that beyond that amazing Mona Lisa picture, there is a very systemic mathematical drawing that is the foundation of bringing about an amazing picture or painting. But who will make somebody a great painter? What will make them a great painter? They have to have that scientific foundation, but being a great painter is something very intuitive and artistic. And I think there is something like this in our work in peace and conflict. How we're going to intervene, how we're going to do things, will definitely be something deeper than that. Next, and remind me of time. Oh, we have 10 minutes. Very good. Okay, and now you have a reader that we have for this part of the course that I call it the CRT CPABIO, and you downloaded that one, or you have it? Okay, so this will be what we will use for the next few weeks or so. And in that reader, I have a foundation that I believe that as I studied the field of peace and conflict, I found that like your backgrounds that are coming from all different areas, the field of peace and conflict was made of different developments that led to establishing this field, not only in sociology, not only in psychology, not only in law, but it's actually affected by all of them. And so I came up with just like 6 stories that I believe had strong influence on how we formed this field of peace and conflict as we know it today. And the first one is related to the international nation-state story. This is maybe the most prevalent story. Comes from end of World War II. Now the whole map of the world is changing politically, and the notion of nation-state has been developing very strongly and with colonialism for 200 years. And the whole world is divided into nation-states. This is how you organize yourself. And then you have superpowers and powers that are less not as strong, and you have a United Nations that is supposed to maintain peace. You have a world order that is intended to try to preserve peace as much as possible, that emerged out of World War II. A lot of literature developed about the concept of nation-state and how it was formed, and what is the role of this nation-state in establishing peace. What is the role of international organizations in how to establish peace? And a lot of political science and international relations literature is focused on that level. And definitely the beginning of thinking of peace and conflict came from that area of focus. And I think people who are in that level, they think that this is it, this is peace and conflict. And it's also a fallacy in a way, because I think that, as you're going to see, no, there are many other areas of peace and conflict that are not necessarily at the international and nation-state level. But this is the most dominant. And it is the most assumed by people that when we say peace and conflict, we are talking about international and nation-state. Yes, it's a big part of it. It is what's in the media most of the time. But let's see that how other areas also have influenced the field. The second influence came in the 60s, pretty much, with what we call the liberation and emancipation story. What do I mean here? The 50s and 60s witnessed major changes happening on 2 levels. One was also yet political, with some of the countries in the global south were colonized for the longest time, started to work towards independence. And they fought for their independence. So that liberation story and how people fought for the liberation, the logic of fighting for liberation, and what is wrong with colonization and so on, became a big part of the literature that influenced us until today. Nelson Mandela becoming, of course, a big example of this, and many, many other, Castro and Lumumba in Ghana, and no, sorry, in Congo, and many others. And Nasser in Egypt, of course. But there was also the emancipation story. The emancipation story, I think, relates more to what we have seen specifically with, in the United States, with women and with people of color. And all the movement for civil liberties that we saw in the 60s, and that people wanted to get their liberty as individuals because of their race, because of their gender, and many other factors. That too became a big source of knowledge and inspiration for us in the field. So as you can see here, this took us to a different level from the first one. The first one maintained that the actors were the nation states and international organizations. In the second story, the actors are the individuals and the people who are fighting for their liberty, whether from oppressors such as in other states who are occupying them, or from regimes and structures that are oppressing them because of their gender or because of their color of skin and other factors. And then the third story that emerged later, starting maybe in the 70s, was the environment and the climate change story. And here we see that as we started to realize the danger of the effects of environment changes and climate change, and how it is affecting us and affecting conflict directly. When you look at, I worked in Darfur, for example, in Sudan, And you couldn't see more clear the effect of environment on what's happening on the ground and how the resource is changing, the water or other resource, and as a result is causing havoc between groups of people that is leading to violence and conflict. And then it starts to spread to their ethnic identity and other elements, and before you know it, it's a vicious, vicious conflict. And when you think how are we going to move towards peace, it seems that the only way to do that is to go through the environment and climate change elements and to see how can you work with it so that you can resolve the issues from the root. So that made us start to develop also literature about the importance of understanding and appreciating what comes from environment and from climate change and how directly it affects causes of conflict and how we can find peaceful ways to deal with it. And then also the other story is the business and labor story. And this one maybe has earlier roots with Marxism, with the notion of labor has to be liberated and have to have their rights and so on. Interestingly enough, one of the earlier responses of the capitalist world to Marxism and communism and so on was to strengthen the unions, to strengthen that the unions, what they can do to protect the labor rights. And then as that a result, they had to develop good methods of how to negotiate and how to mediate with the owners, given the disparity of power between the owner who has the millions and the workers who have nothing other than their collectiveness as a union. And then how can we do negotiations effectively in light of those dynamics? And that developed also very rich literature and activists in the field who were actually focusing in the field of peace and conflict on how to empower labor. And then comes the end of communism that we saw in the early 1990s and so on. And then the liberal economic models started to pervade the whole world. And now actually we deal with labor in a more ironic way, which is more of the labor is running away from the rich Western countries and is placed in countries where, again, the capitalist mind say that I need cheap labor. Why should I give $20 to someone where I can pay $2 for the same person in another country? And that made the labor dynamics and how to make it equitable and fair is a whole new story that we are dealing with, especially with the new technologies that are happening with cyber nomads, people working everywhere in the world, but they don't have to stay in the same country because they can get better conditions somewhere else. The whole story of labor and management and ownership is changing. More literature is influencing how we think of labor relations and how it relates to peace and conflict directly. And then the family personal story. And that too, actually, I found to be very, very important in some of the literature we have. And maybe actually it was a response to I would say the limits or the shortcomings of the legal system and judicial system in dealing with some of the conflict that happened at a personal level. One very famous movie that was in the US in the 70s that related to how court systems can fail people when they are dealing with family conflict was called the Kramer versus Kramer. And if you have not seen it, please watch it. It's Meryl Streep and Dustin Hoffman. And I think one of them won an Oscar for that movie. I think Meryl Streep. And it's a very good movie. Particularly what interested me in it was that they were husband and wife. They got divorced. The wife left the house. She let the husband have custody of the child. The husband is taking care of the child by himself for a couple of years. And then the wife comes back and says, I want my child back. And he refuses. They go to the court. In the court, the two lawyers, each one of them's job is what? Is to try to prove that my client is the best parent for the child. And that actually, and to do that, you need to show that the other parent is bad. So each of them is doing their job as lawyers very, very well by tarnishing the other one and making sure that their client looks like such a good person. They actually went so far in tarnishing the other to the point that the two clients, the husband and the wife, empathized with each other. They felt sorry for each other, how much the other lawyer is attacking them. And even though the court at the end ruled in favor of the wife, actually the wife at the end of the movie came to the husband and said, I'm not taking the child. She felt that the right answer was, I keep the child with you because you already made a home for him. The last thing he wanted was to be taken away from what has become his home. Instead, they reconciled, not went back together, but reconciled for the sake of taking care of the child, and they found a solution outside of the court ruling. because there was some other solution that can work better. This movie and other influences at the time led to the development of what we call ADR, Alternative Dispute Resolution. Those are very powerful models now, mediation and otherwise, that are used along with the judicial system because they are seen to be more effective in helping people resolve conflicts more peacefully. And that too is another big strand of how we work with conflict and think of it and peace. And then the last one is the religious and spiritual story. I will say that even though the core of peace and conflict, yes, it may be started in some religious circles with some of the Mennonites in the United States and the Quakers and some of the religious groups that are known to have worked for peace for a long time. But the gist of the literature was highly secular. But I think it couldn't continue. I mean, the influence of religious and spiritual circles on how we develop our models of peace and conflict have been challenged from religious and spiritual dimensions. The notion that religion is the cause of all conflict was very prevalent early on. I think was quickly moved back, and people realized the potential of religion and spirituality especially, not as much religion, in moving people towards more peaceful approaches effectively. And it is no longer seen as something that you keep on the side or you don't address and stay with the secular focus. No, I think spirituality and religion have become a powerful element of the literature that we see, also on the personal level to the highest levels of macro conflicts and international conflicts. So those stories, in my opinion, shape, and you're going to see it clearly in wherever you're going to study. You're going to see that foundation coming clearly in what you study about peace and conflict. It goes back again to that multidisciplinary approach, which next class, tomorrow, when we get to the next slide, we'll talk about like some of the fundamentals of the field. And the first one of them is that the multidisciplinary approach, that we are not just a political science, we are not just international relations, we are not just law, we are not just gender, we are not just environment, we are all of the above. And it is in that holistic intersectional approach to thinking of peace and conflict that we can have a more effective approach. And I think it is 10 o'clock. 10:03. I'm sorry, I took 3 minutes, a little bit more. So to be fair to you, you can go to your seminars at 10:18. So you still get your own 10:20 to get there on time. Thank you all so much. Very happy to see all of you, and welcome to UPeace. All the best. All the best. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.